The BA-85A is a handheld dynamic microphone from Behringer, designed for live performance on stage as well as recording vocals and instruments in the studio. And I'm sure you can tell by looking at it that it's Behringer's version of the legendary Shure BA-85A, the upgraded version of the SM58. Both of those microphones from Shure have been around on stage and in the studio for a long time. They're used by some iconic performers. We've all seen them and heard them. But can the BA-85A stack up at a far lower price? Well, a little bit of a spoiler, when I compared this to the SM57 for guitar and bass amp recordings, the frequency response was nearly identical. When you look at the analysis later in this video, it's hard to tell one from the other. But we're going to listen to this for vocals as well. We're going to see just how this microphone stacks up. It's Todd here from AskDRTK. Welcome back, and I hope you're having a great week. Today I'm back with another microphone review. And unless I tell you otherwise, all of the recordings in this review are going to be made with the microphone connected directly into a Focusrite Scarlett 8i6. I've chosen that interface because I think it's pretty representative of what a lot of you have. There also will not be any post-processing applied. Even for the microphone comparisons, I've taken the time during tracking to get the levels as even as possible so that I don't have to boost or lower the gain during post. Now, I've also done that guitar and bass amp recording comparison with the 57. You'll have to see how that turned out later on. I will also be showing you what this microphone can do with different preamps, so we'll get to hear what changing the type of preamp does to the flavor of the sound here. Of course, I'm going to include physical tests, so we'll test plosives, handling noise, off-axis, all the things you'd expect to see in a mic review. And finally, I'm going to give you my thoughts on where this microphone sits, who it's for, and what my recommendations are. Now, I've had the BA-85A for some time, used it a lot, but I will roll back the clock here. I'm going to unbox this for you. So as you see, it comes in a hard plastic case. This is one that's used by a lot of manufacturers, including Behringer. There are some instructions inside, gives you a little bit of detail on the specifications. Not a lot here, but everything you pretty much need. Then we have the mic itself. Comes with a mic clip. It also has an adapter for 5/8 and 3/8. Then we have the microphone itself. This is a really heavy microphone. It's nice and solid, well made, and so you can expect that it's going to last a long time. So I'm going to start with an unprocessed audio comparison using a few different preamps. This, of course, first is the Scarlett 8i6. I have the gain set at about 330. This is a very transparent preamp. I don't find that it really colors any microphone that I use. And again, this is what I think is representative for what a lot of you are using. And so this is the sound that you get. We're also going to listen on a couple other preamps. So let's switch over to an ART voice channel. That's a tube preamp. I'll be bypassing all of the processing, so it's going to be preamp only. Let's take a listen. Okay, and now I've connected up the BA-85A to the preamp only on my ART voice channel. This is a tube-based preamp, so just to get an idea of the saturation, I bypassed all of the processing functions, so I've actually connected in hardware at the preamp out on the back, so completely bypassing any internal circuitry, preamp only, and this is the sound that you get. Tube preamp typically gives, again, a little more saturation to the tone, so this is what you can expect from a tube preamp. Now we'll move this over to the DBX, and we'll see what that type of preamp circuitry does to the flavor of this microphone. And now I have the BA-85A connected into my DBX286S. I have it on preamp only, so I've actually bypassed using the mic preamp output on the back, so hardware bypass, no internal processing going on from the DBX. This is just a DBX preamp, so you get an idea of what a preamp from this company might do to the flavor of this mic. I'm including these three preamp tests with the very transparent one on the 8i6, the tube preamp on the ART, and this DBX preamp, just to give you an idea of the kind of difference, again, that you can expect. We'll come back to these at the end of the video when I'm looking at process sound. Now I want to get into some of the physical tests, and first I'm going to talk about working distance. So right now, I'm off this microphone by probably about 4 inches, so I'm pretty close to the mic, and I think this is a good spot to be at as far as for pickup. I do have it set up slightly across axis just to help out with plosives, but that's normally where we'd use it. But I'll just back up a little bit. Now I'm at about a foot away from the microphone, and so this is the sound that you get. Give you an idea of the change in the tone or character that you get from this microphone. I'm going to turn it around here just a little bit, adjust the positioning, and I'll back up a little further so you can hear. Now I'm about 2 feet away from the microphone, and this is the sound that you get. So to give you an idea of just how sensitive it is from a further distance away. Now as I move up closer here, next thing I'll do is I'll actually get into an off-axis rejection test. So right now I'm speaking right into the front of the microphone, and as I'm talking and turning it, you can hear as I get to about 90 degrees, this is the sound it's picking up, and I'll continue turning it as I'm speaking, and now I'm getting around to the back about 180 degrees. This is the sound that you're getting, and I'll keep turning it around the other side, working my way up to getting to about 90 degrees again to the microphone, and then, of course, continuing it back around to the front where it's pointing directly at me. Now, this microphone is a supercardioid microphone, so we would expect to have a pretty tight lobe of sensitivity in front and a very small lobe of sensitivity in back. And from my monitoring, I think it lives up to that. I really did hear a pretty sharp drop-off. Certainly, it does pick up sound from, from around the space, but, as a dynamic microphone, it's doing a pretty good job of that. So I'm going to say the polar pattern is what it's said to be. Off-axis works fairly well. I'll go ahead and test this microphone out for plosives. Of course, it is a vocal handheld microphone, so people, because. And yeah, definitely, it picks up plosives. It's not terrible, though, by any means. If we're using it in a studio, we could use a pop filter. People, because. And yeah, of course, that cleans everything up entirely, so no problem there. But of course, on stage use, it would have to be what it is, but I think it does a pretty good job here. Next thing I want to do is take a little bit of a look here at handling noise. And so I'm going to tap the stand. And that's really picking that up. It's pretty loud, considering, too, this microphone has an internal shock mount. Let's go ahead and take it out of the clip. And I'm just kind of handling it like you normally would on stage, if you're holding on to it and speaking and otherwise or singing. That's kind of the sound you get. So not terrible, but the sound is there. I'm going to throw that back in here again. So we have that now. Now another thing I want to also test here is typing noise. So background noise from keyboard. So I'm typing away on a keyboard here, and just to give you an idea, I'll be quiet for a moment. And so it is picking up some of that noise. There's no question in the background we're getting it. But I think overall, it does a reasonable job. It is a dynamic microphone, so I would expect it to do a pretty good job of rejecting sound. For the first mic comparison, we have two handheld dynamics from Behringer. Of course, we have the BA-85A, and I also have the XM8500. Both of these are in a very similar price point. It fluctuates a little bit, but I would say it's certainly within $10. So they're really head-to-head competitors in this price range. Right now, you're hearing me on the BA-85A. Still connected into the Focusrite Scarlett 8i6, gain set at about 330. No processing being applied to the mic. This is the sound you get. Now I'll go ahead and I'll switch over to the XM8500. And now you're hearing me on the XM8500. This is one of the go-to microphones from Behringer as far as handheld dynamics. Been around for a long time, really popular. It's kind of represented as their idea or their answer to the SM58. A legendary stage microphone, also gets a lot of studio use even today. And so this is the XM8500, also connected into the Scarlett 8i6, gain set also at 330, no processing here. This is the sound that you get. Now we'll go ahead and we'll check out the handling noise on each of the microphones. So I'm going to pick up this BA-85A, and I'm just holding it in my hand as if I'd be speaking and using it for that kind of application. Switch it over. Put it back in the mic clip. And so that's the sound from the BA-85A. Now we're over again on the XM8500. Take it out of the clip. Once again, I'm going to kind of just hold it in my hand, move it back and forth as if I was using it as a handheld application, and put it back in the clip. And so as I'm sure you could hear, both microphones really picked up that handling noise. Again, really all handheld dynamic microphones are going to pick up some handling noise. The idea is what would it be like in a live performance application where you have maybe music playing at the same time? Would it be enough to cut it out? And now that you've heard me on both of the microphones, can you tell the difference? Am I speaking to you on the BA-85A, or are you hearing me on the XM8500? As always, check the upper corner to find out. And for our second mic comparison, again, two microphones from Behringer. We have the BA-85A, and this time it's the SL84C. And of course, this is Behringer's copy or representation, if you will, of the SM48. So a step down from the SM58 copy we just looked at. And so, of course, you're hearing me first here on the BA-85A. Nothing has changed as far as the settings. We're still, at 330 on the 8i6 without any processing here. And we'll go ahead and switch over to the SL84C. And of course, now you're hearing me on the SL84C. This is connected into the 8i6 here. And this time I have the gain actually set about 4 o'clock. This microphone needs a little more gain than does the BA-85A. Again, without any processing, this is the sound that you get here. Both microphones, again, intended for handheld use. Let's go ahead and check out handling noise again. So once again, I'm taking the BA-84A out of the clip and holding it. I will add it back. And now we'll take the SL84C, remove that from the clip. Again, I'll hold it, see what kind of handling noise you get there. Definitely picking it up. Put that one back in the clip. And finally, we'll go ahead and check plosives. People, because. So that's the 85A. Now we'll go over to the SL84C. People, because. And so both microphones pick up plosives. That's something to keep in mind. Of course, vocal control matters, and depending how you have the mic set up, it's going to make more or less of a difference. And now that you've heard me on both microphones, can you tell the difference? Am I speaking on the BA-85A, or are you listening to me on the SL84C? Check the top corner to find out. For our third comparison, we have the BA-85A against the Sennheiser XS1. The Sennheiser microphone is about double the price of the BA-85A, so let's see how they work out. And as usual, I'm starting out here with the BA-85A. No changes into the Scarlett, gain set at 330, no processing. Now we'll switch over to the XS1. And this is me speaking through the XS1, and as you can probably tell, this microphone is a little more presence forward. I think, at least to my ears, it is a little bit clearer, perhaps. But let me know what you think in the description. I also have this microphone gain set at about 330 on the 8i6 without any processing. Now we'll go ahead and check out the handling noise. So as usual now, back on the BA-85A, go ahead and I am squeezing it, moving it back and forth. That's what it sounds like. Throw that one back in the clip. Now we'll switch over to the Sennheiser. And this is the XS1. Again, I'm holding it in my hand, moving it around. You get an idea of the handling noise, as well as kind of the proximity effect as I move it around a bit. Sennheiser also has a switch on it. To be usable, of course, it has to be silent enough. We'll go ahead and turn it off and on. And you certainly can hear that switch turning off and on. So, again, whether or not you use a switch, that's just what you get with the XS1. Now we'll try the plosives here, starting again on the BA-85A. People, because. And now we'll go ahead and listen to them on the XS1. People, because. And so again, both microphones are susceptible to plosives. I think, again, reasonable for a handheld microphone, but let me know again if you think one is better than the other. And of course, now that you've heard me on both microphones, can you tell the difference? Is this the BA-85A, or are you listening to the Sennheiser XS1? Find out in the top corner. Next comparison, we're going to go back to a microphone in the same price range as the BA-85A. So again, we have that microphone. The other side, we have the Newer NW40. Newer is another one of these companies. They manufacture a lot of things that are similar to other products. They have a broader range, I would say, than Behringer does, because they get into lighting and all kinds of other things. But this is their mic. It's almost a similar copy, actually, to the Sennheiser that we just looked at, but of course at about half the price. So you're hearing me, of course, right now on the BA-85A with all the settings remaining the same as in the previous comparisons. Let's go ahead and listen now to the Newer NW40. And of course, now you're hearing me on the NW40. This microphone's a little bit hotter than the BA-85A. I've got the gain now turned down to just under 3 o'clock. So it is a little bit hotter microphone. But again, similar in the range. Most interfaces can drive either of these mics without a problem. And so let's go ahead and do some tests. We'll switch back to the BA-85A. Looking at handling noise again as I take it out of the clip. Holding it, moving it around. You can listen to proximity as I also move it back and forth. Throw that back in the clip now. Give you an idea what we have there. Now we'll go ahead on the NW40, pulling that out of the clip. That's the sound it's picking up. Again, as I move it hand to hand. See how much noise it picks up? Not bad. Okay, throw that back in the clip. This microphone also has a switch, so we'll turn it off and on. And the switch definitely makes noise on the NW40, but it is there in case you need it. Can you tell the difference? Am I speaking to you on the NW40 from Newer, or is this the BA-85A? Let me know in the comments below just how easy it is to tell the difference between these microphones. And of course, check the top corner to find out. Next up, I have a comparison for you with the BA-85A against the Shure SM57. And as I said in the intro, these microphones were nearly identical in my guitar amp tests, and you'll see that coming up shortly. But I thought it'd be really interesting to try these on vocal after hearing that guitar amp and looking at the frequencies. Pretty amazing stuff here. So, of course, you heard me on the BA-85A. Nothing has changed. Gain at 330. Here, no processing. And now we'll switch over to the SM57. And here you're listening to me on the Shure SM57. This is a legendary microphone. It's pretty much in every studio around the world. A lot of people use it. Doesn't matter if it's pro use, home use. This gets used for recording instruments, recording vocals. It's all over the place. This microphone is about 4 times the price of the BA-85A. I have it connected into the 8i6 here. Gain set at 4 o'clock. This one's a little hungrier than the BA-85A. No processing again. This is what the sound is. Let's check out the handling noise. So here again we have the BA-85A. Once again, out of the mic clip, moving it back and forth. You can hear the sound, the proximity effect. Throw that back in the mic clip. Now we'll get the SM57. Once again, pulling it out of the stand, holding on to it, moving it back and forth, side to side. As I hold it, proximity in and out, that's the sound you're getting. Throw it back in the mic clip now. And so again, both pick up some noise, even at 4 times the price. The 57 still picks up the sound as you handle it. And so now that I've already told you how close the frequencies lined up on the amp test, both guitar and bass, what about vocals? Can you tell the difference? Am I speaking to you on the 85A or am I speaking to you on the 57? I'll let you know in the top corner. And this will be the last comparison I do. Here I have the BA-85A versus the Shure MV7X. And of course, starting out, you are listening to me on the BA-85A. Gain and everything is set the same, 330, no processing. Now I'll switch over to the MV7X. And this is the MV7X. This microphone is 7 to 9 times the price of the BA-85A, so it's quite a bit more expensive. I'm not going to go any higher end in this comparison. We could throw some really expensive mics on here, but it's really not reasonable for what you'd actually use them for. And really, I've included the MV7X more for those that are thinking about, using this for recording dialogue, perhaps this kind of an environment, not handheld, obviously, but I thought I would throw it in just so you can get an idea of what sort of difference you can expect by spending that extra money. Shure, of course, also talks about the MV7X as being good for recording not only spoken word, but recording singing, so vocals, instruments, etc. So I thought it was a reasonable comparison to add in here. And so this microphone, a sensitivity, I would say, is just a little bit less than the BA-85A, so maybe 345 on the gain control. Not overly hungry by any means here. This is a sound that you get out of it. I'm not going to do a handheld test, obviously, as this is not a handheld microphone, but we will do plosives. So again, people, because. So that's the BA-85A. Now we'll switch over here to the MV7X. People, because. And so that gives you an idea of the plosive handling. Much bigger foam filter on this MV7X. And of course, if you've seen my review on the MV7X or my comparison to the Rode Pod mic, I'll have those linked below. You have an idea that we could also add up another filter. A lot of times we'll take the filter from the SM7B and throw it on this MV7X just to help a little more with the plosives. But for this comparison, that just would be adding more cost. That's not really what I'm trying to do here. So these are the two microphones. And finally, for 7 to 8, 9 times the price, can you tell the difference? Are you listening to me on the BA-85A or is this the Shure MV7X? As always, find out in the top corner. Now I'm going to get into some tests for guitar and bass amp recordings, and we're going to connect both the BA-85A as well as the Shure SM57. We'll go ahead and do recordings of rock and blues guitar as well as bass guitar, and we'll compare the frequencies just to see how this microphone stacks up for that application against the legendary 57 used all over the world for the same kind of thing. And so now we'll take a look at the frequency comparison side by side. So on screen here, I brought up the frequency analysis. First, we'll look at linear of the recording made with the BA-85A against the recording made with the SM57. And as you can see here, these are for all intensive purposes identical. There is such a small difference in the very highest frequencies that are really beyond the scope of what most of us would hear reasonably on its own, and certainly within a mix. I'm going to say that these microphones from a linear basis are virtually indistinguishable from each other. Now we'll go ahead and throw the log comparison up. And now I have the log comparison on screen. And log comparison is designed to give you a better idea of what we'd actually hear. And again, this is absolutely, really unbelievable. I've never come across two microphones that are so identical to each other, even of the same mic, if you will, like two examples of the same mic. Never mind two different microphones altogether. And again, just the very, very highest range, some slight differences, but you'd be very hard-pressed to hear the difference on its own soloed, let alone again in a mix. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the blues comparison. And so now we're looking at the blues guitar comparison here, again, linear. And I like to do both the rock and the blues guitar because I think that the transients, the dynamics are a little bit different. So I want to see how the microphones compare. And again, here, on a linear basis, the difference between these two is virtually negligible. Anything here that can be heard is at such a low level. If this was ever in a mix, you wouldn't be able to tell at all. Let's take a look at the log comparison as well. And here we have the log comparison, again, a representation of what we hear. And I have to say that there is no difference here. I mean, I have, again, come across microphones, even two of the same brand, two examples, that were not this close. And so to have this, if you want to use a BA-85A as a guitar amp microphone, in place of an SM57, maybe you want to, keep the budget under control, or maybe you need additional microphones. You could easily have this microphone, in the same session recording a cabinet as you have, a 57 recording another cabinet. There would absolutely be no reason to do that looking at this. Now we'll get into taking a look at bass guitar. And now looking at the frequency comparisons here from the bass amp recordings, again, the difference in frequency response and dynamics is very small here. This, you'd be hard-pressed, again, in a mix, you would never be able to hear the difference between these two. If your ears are actually that good, let me know, because I haven't come across anyone who could hear the difference in a mix when I look at these two frequency responses. Now let me take a look at a log analysis, and we'll see again how that measures up. And here we have the log comparison, and once again, the difference between these two microphones is almost nothing. I'm just so surprised with this. I didn't expect this at all. Again, there's microphones that claim to be copies of the SM57 that aren't nearly as close to the response the 57 has as this BA-85A is. So again, if you want to use these for miking up cabinets, go right ahead. This is going to get the job done in much the same way as a 57 has been getting the job done for decades. So really interesting test here. I hope this helps you out. And now we'll get into the processed audio demonstration, and we're starting out here in the box. So I've just added up EQ and compression, a little bit of minor boost in some of the lower tones. I've cut out some of the muddy tones, the nasally tones, a little bit of air to open up the top end here. We're also using a Red 3 compressor, very soft compressor, not doing anything drastic, not slamming the vocals at all, really natural sounding. And the idea is just to kind of thicken things up a little bit, give a little more authority in the tone, without completely changing the sound. And so this is in the box. Now we'll go and switch over to the ART voice channel, and we'll do everything in hardware. And so now I have the BA-85A connected into the ART voice channel, and I've got compression happening here, a de-esser, I've got EQ as well, got an expander to gate out some of the really low tones here. And so this is the sound, again, a tube preamp, but with a full hardware processing chain on this microphone. And this by no means is the only way you could set up the sound profile, but I just want to give you an idea of this microphone, again, through hardware. Now we'll go ahead and move it over to the DBX and see what we get there. And now I have the BA-85A connected into the DBX286S. You can see here that I'm using compression. I have the de-esser on here as well. I've got low enhancement as well as high enhancement and the expander gate on. That's a pretty typical hardware processing chain. The DBX286S is a really popular channel strip, especially with voiceover and that. So I thought I'd include it here. I think it's a reasonable choice if you want to have a preamp upgrade from what's within like a typical interface. And so just to show you the difference, again, DBX286S, we have the BA-85A here. And so I'll give you my final thoughts here. After all of that, I have to say this microphone greatly outperforms its price point. To my ears, you're getting a lot of value here for what the cost of this microphone actually is. And I have to say, very versatile, worked really well on the vocals as well as on the amp cabinet recordings, worked nicely with processing, both in the box and hardware, can be absolutely very usable right out of the box without any EQ or compression, and again, using a Scarlett interface. So no issues here. This is a great microphone, great value, way above expectations. I know Behringer gets a lot of bad press, especially for, copying other people's microphones, but they've really delivered a lot of value here with this BA-85A. And if you want to check out some more microphones, whether you're in studio or performing live, check out one of the videos on the screen. And as always, great to have you here, and I'll see you next time.